Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's My Mystery here, and in today's video I want to make a continuation of the last video I published, which was on the topic of Shayna Hubers, who was known for the murder of her ex-boyfriend Ryan Poston. She's been tried and convicted, and in today's video I want to dig a little bit deeper. I want to look into the backstory. I want to ask a question. You know, a lot of true crime content on YouTube or anywhere, they do focus on the actual specific event, and I kind of want to look a little bit deeper than that and look into the backstory of the people involved and ask what kind of makes a monster. What made Shayna Hubers into the person that took her ex-boyfriend's life? So Shayna Michelle Hubers was born on April 8th, 1991 in Lexington, Kentucky in the United States of America. Shayna was kind of like an interesting character growing up. I think we've all known a girl like her. She sort of strikes me from reading a bit about her background as that person, you know, in your class who was always kind of presented as perfect. You know, they always got straight A's. They were the teacher's pet. They were always very controlled and always succeeded educationally, and this was actually backed up by one of her friends. It was interesting. One of her friends was quoted saying that she thought that Shayna was close to genius level. She was always in AP classes. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sure my American followers can describe that, and always getting A's in everything. She received countless awards for academic excellence and leadership, and she was quoted to have liked to succeed at anything and everything that she did. So that's pretty interesting, you know, when I think about that from just trying to assess who Shayna Hubers was as a person. I normally find, and this isn't always the case because succeeding and being ambitious is so important for everyone, but in a case like Shayna Hubers, with now what we know, what happened, I feel like sometimes people are very controlled and feel like they really need to succeed and project an image of success because deep down they don't feel very good about themselves. And what is interesting is once I was doing the background research on her, something her friends said was that she had a flair for the dramatic. Especially when it came to boys. She was participating in music and drama at school too, an extracurricular activity, and she was described as very dramatic. One of her friends quoted said if a guy like broke up with her or something, or if a guy just said they weren't interested in her, she would take it pretty hard, crying and maybe a little screaming. She didn't like to let things go. So a little screaming for a guy not being interested in her is a little bit of like a, I don't know, like a red flag once it comes to researching what kind of person she was before all this happened. It is a bit extra to be screaming because someone is not interested in you. And I think that does fit with the sort of profile I'm coming up with of Shayna Hubers in my mind. It's interesting because, like I said before, she did have that desire for control to project that image of perfection. And what Shayna began to realise was that she couldn't actually control other people. You can get straight A's, you can lose all the weight you want, but you cannot make someone love you. And I think that Shayna took this part hardest of all. So Shayna and Ryan actually first met on Facebook. He contacted her after spotting provocative photos of her on spring break, which is always the greatest foundation to a relationship. I like that photo of you. But anyway, the couple did begin to start dating. And at the time they were dating, Shayna was a psychology student at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, which was about 80 miles away from Highland Heights, where Ryan was from. So Shayna and Ryan had very different backgrounds. Shayna, how do I put this, had a lot more of a modest background than Ryan. Ryan had the white picket fence, American dream kind of family and, you know, background, while Shayna was more trying to advance in life. And that's very interesting as to why maybe she got quite attached to Ryan. Well, she graduated top of her class anyway, and She was pursuing a master's degree in school counselling, which is also interesting because who would want Shayna Hubers as their counsellor, especially in school? So on the outside, Ryan and Shayna look like the perfect couple. Ryan was a successful attorney and Shayna was an accomplished graduate student. It looked like they were both poised for a lot of success. But the relationship was stormy. The couple broke up several times, but they would always find their way back to one another. Friends of the couple included a woman named Carissa Carlisle, who was actually instrumental in setting Shayna and Ryan up because she was the mutual friend that Ryan found pictures of Shayna on Facebook through, and she was his step cousin. And she had a few thoughts about Shayna. She said that she was incredibly smart and gifted, but had an Achilles heel when it came to boys and relationships. Any small amount of rejection would send her into a spiral, and she was particularly attached to Ryan. Apparently, he tried to break up with her several times, telling friends that she was quote unquote crazy or too attached. And both would text friends about the turbulence in the relationship, which I'm sure their friends just loved. You know, having to counsel Ryan and Shayna about their relationship that should have probably ended quite quickly, but didn't. And Ryan indicated a desire to leave, but was being tied down by Shayna's emotions, which, you know, speaks to me of manipulation on Shayna's part, which we'll get into. Shayna told friends and later attorneys that Ryan would tell her she needed breast implants and would try to pressure her into three-way sex, breaking down her self-image. So we don't know if that's true or not. You know, she could say what she wants, but it could be. And while it is clear that Ryan and Shayna perceived their relationship in very different ways, ultimately it was very unhealthy. However, in October 2012, friends and family say Ryan finally decided to end the unhealthy relationship after all. His dad actually testified in the trial that Ryan confided his worries in him about Shayna, saying, "Dad, she won't leave me alone. She won't leave my home." With Ryan's dad replying, "Ryan, that's your home. She needs to leave your house." And he actually went on to describe how he heard Ryan's phone pinging all night long from text messages. And it was around that time that Ryan befriended former Miss Ohio Audrey Bolt and even scheduled a date with her. Because in his eyes, the relationship with Shayna was already over. And of course, Shayna added Audrey on Facebook 2 days after Ryan did. Big coincidence. And I guess you can say that she knew something was up and that her relationship with Ryan was about to end because of her crazy behaviour. But then on October the 12th, Shayna desperately tried to regain the attention of Ryan. She wrote some text messages to him saying that she woke up in the middle of the night with chest pains, and her mother even drove up from Lexington to help her. Shayna was sent to the hospital and was triaged and underwent an EKG. And she texted Ryan just to let him know that she was going to see a specialist and describe the types of medicine that she was being prescribed. But it turns out that this one last attempt of control for Shayna over Ryan didn't go to plan for her, because it was later that day that Shayna shot and killed Ryan in his Highland Heights condominium.
Campbell County 911.
Ma'am, I killed my boyfriend in self-defense.
What did you kill him with?
A loaded gun in the house.
Tell me where the gun is right now.
The gun is in the house. I laid it on the bookshelf.
Where are you?
I'm standing about 10 feet from his dead body.
Okay, are you sure that he is dead?
He's dead, ma'am. He's completely dead.
Okay. And how long ago did you shoot him?
I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, not even that long.
10 or 15 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Shayna Michelle Huber.
The officers are going to want me to stay on the line with you, so when they get there, they're going to want to know where that gun is, and we want you to get out safely too, okay?
Okay, are they going to arrest me?
Ma'am, I don't know what they'll do. We're going to send them out. I'm going to stay on the line with you, okay?
I mean, I'm not a murderer, ma'am. I just killed him.
What happened exactly? exactly? What happened?
He beat me and tried to carry me out of the house, and I came back in to get my things, and he was right in front of me, and he reached down and grabbed the gun, and I grabbed it out of his hand and pulled the trigger.
Okay. All right. Do you need an ambulance? Have you been injured?
I'm not injured, ma'am. I was thrown into the side of the couch.
All right. What's his name?
Ryan Poston. He's an attorney in Cincinnati.
Okay. Have you had a history of domestic violence with him?
Yes.
Okay. And is this your gun?
No, this is his gun. He keeps loaded guns in the house.
So he slammed you into the couch, but you don't have any injuries?
I don't have any injuries. I was just very frightened. He's a lot bigger than me. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. I'm 5'8", 120. And he picked me up, and I said, let me get my things at least if we're going to break up. And he threw me across the room, and I was very startled. I was laying on the floor.
Okay. All right.
And I killed him.
Ma'am, you're sure he's not breathing at all?
Do I have to go touch him?
No, that's okay. They actually have someone that's outside almost right now, but I'm going to stay on the line with you, okay?
Ma'am, and then because he was twitching and I knew he was going to die anyway, and he was making funny noises, I shot him a couple more times just to kill him because I knew he would have been.
I'm sorry, you said you shot him a couple more times after that?
Yeah.
How many times did you shoot him total?
I don't know.
Okay, because he was twitching and you knew he was going to die, so you shot him again?
Enough to make sure he was dead because he was twitching so bad and I didn't want to watch him lay there and twitch.
So you shot him instead of calling 911?
Yeah, I did because I knew he was going to die anyway.
Shayna called 911 between 10 and 15 minutes after shooting Ryan and told the operator that she, quote unquote, killed her boyfriend in self-defense. She claimed that Ryan threw her across the room and into the bookshelf, but there was no signs of a violent fight. And also, what was of particular significance to investigators was that the bullets lined on the bookshelf were all standing upright. Shayna surrendered and was brought to the Highland Heights, Kentucky Police Department for questioning. She immediately requested a lawyer, but still could not stop talking to police for almost 3 hours. She danced, twirled, and she even sang Amazing Grace. Police say her behaviour was bizarre, which, let's be honest, that's putting it lightly, for someone who had just lost a loved one.
And I just picked up the gun, and in the middle of him doing something with his arm or saying something crazy, shot him. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? You know. And he was laying with his face on the table, like twitching. And so I knew he was going to die a very slow and painful death. I knew he was already dead, you know, within the next 20 seconds. So in the next 2 minutes, I knew he was going to be dead. And he was in a lot of pain. He was twitching, he was moaning, but he was ultimately dead. And so I shot him enough times to kill him so that he wouldn't suffer at that point, which was a few more times. And I shot him, I think I shot him twice, thought he was completely dead, and he was laying there still, twitching and making noises. And I shot him in the head. I probably should have left it there, but I knew he was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Or have a very deformed face.
And you were concerned?
And I knew, oh no, he would have died. He was already dying. He was dying. But I just walked around the table and shot him where I knew he would die immediately. And fast. His obsession with guns killed him. You know, I would have never, I'm so Democrat, I would have never touched a gun in my life until I dated him. I'm not your typical murderer. Let's say, oh, rest.
What I took note of particularly was that during her 2.5 hour talk with detectives after the shooting, Shayna never actually mentioned her heart problem from that morning. And that's probably because she made it up. Well, that's what the police chief, Bill Birkenauer, said anyway. He testified in the 5th day of her retrial that she sent the messages to Ryan while doing Google searches of high blood pressure and heart disease. He's quoted as saying, for instance, she'll search medication for left ventricular hypertrophy, and right after she sends the message to Ryan, she would say she had this particular condition and the type of medication she would have to start taking for it. You see, it was routine for Shayna to message Ryan frequently. Apparently, she would send him tens of thousands of social media messages, with Ryan barely responding to any of them. If he was trying to break up or move on, she would send him 100 messages to his one response. Many times he would just turn his phone off. And she even hacked his Facebook account to unfriend people and send messages to others. Even with the hacking, it was the volume of messages that would surprise anybody. All in all, he said he would put the number of individual messages at pretty much between 50 to 100,000, which is absolutely insane. And over time, she would use a friend's phone to send messages to Ryan. Because of these obsessive tendencies, well, that was what led Shayna to show up at Ryan's condominium the night that he was scheduled to meet Miss Ohio. So she kind of knew that he was going to meet her that night. And like I said before, she'd friended Miss Ohio on Facebook 2 days after Ryan became friends with her. The prosecution's argument was that Shayna wanted to murder Ryan because he tried to break up with her, which is very, like that I 100% believe them. And they pointed to the testimony of Ryan's father and all Ryan's friends. He had said he was trying to end the relationship, that he didn't want to date her anymore, but just couldn't seem to get away from it, one of his friends said. And 10 days before the shooting, Shayna actually messaged one of her own friends about going to a shooting range with Ryan. Her exact words were, "A part of me wanted to turn around and shoot him. I wonder why he's taking me on dates and stuff. LOL. I'm not going to turn down learning to shoot a gun. Haha." So I think that pretty much speaks for itself. But the thing that I find so interesting is the fact that she actually made up that she was, sick or, going to hospital to try and get Ryan's attention. That with the 50,000 to 100,000 messages, this was more than just obsession to me. This was about control. Shayna was someone who liked to control every aspect of her life, and this obsessive behavior wasn't just some innocent, crazy, sick girl. This was someone who was used to getting their way, was used to controlling everything around them. And when Ryan didn't give in to Shayna's sort of reign of terror, she did the unthinkable.
And teases her long hair during breaks. No one would think she's on trial for allegedly shooting her boyfriend dead in a jealous rage.
I got up off the floor and I grabbed the gun and I shot him.
Huber shot 29-year-old attorney Ryan Poston in the face just hours before he was to go on a date with a Miss USA pageant contestant.
Ohio!
She was Miss Ohio, Audrey Balti. You may recall it was Audrey who made a famous gaffe during the national broadcast, referring to Julia Roberts' character in Pretty Woman, a hooker, as a positive role model.
Julia Roberts and she was having a rough time. But you know what? She came out on top, and she didn't let anybody stay in her path.
Some say it may have cost her the Miss USA crown. Miss Ohio went home as second runner-up and resumed her life. She met Ryan Poston on Facebook.
I asked for some help on a review of some movies that were going on at the time, and he had replied to one of them and left a funny, interesting comment.
They made a date, but while she was waiting for him in a bar, Shayna Hubers shot him at his apartment 6 times. She claims it was self-defense, but prosecutors say she lashed out because he was breaking up with her.
So Shayna was indicted for Ryan's murder on December the 20th, 2012. And by January the 16th, 2013, she entered a plea of not guilty to the charges. 2.5 years after the incident, Shayna's trial began on April the 13th, 2015. She did remain in jail since her arrest because she was unable to meet her bail. Prosecutors argued that the motive for the murder was that Ryan wanted to permanently end the relationship, while defense attorneys continued with their contention that the shooting was in self-defense and that Shayna was a victim of domestic abuse. As part of their case, the prosecution put on text message evidence that showed Shayna's obsession with Ryan, and several witnesses, including members of Ryan's own family and friends, and actually Miss Ohio herself and Shayna's former cellmate, testified for the prosecution. And Carissa Carlisle, who through Ryan met Shayna, testified that her cousin was trying to avoid conflict with her. And she even read a series of text messages that she had exchanged with Ryan before his death. And then, of course, Ryan's stepfather testified as well. And it was all the same story, that Shayna was obsessed with Ryan. And it was because he had a date with Miss Ohio that he was murdered. And the cellmate's testimony was particularly interesting. Cecily Miller, I don't know why she was in jail with Shayna, but she testified that Shayna bragged about killing her boyfriend, saying that she gave Ryan the nose job he always wanted, which we heard in her interrogation as well. Lovely thing to say, which is terrible. And she also said that she was going to plead insanity, but she was too smart because she had the IQ of Einstein. So she was going to plead battered wife syndrome. So that's pretty telling, isn't it? Shayna, not only is she dangerous, she's also completely delusional if she thinks that she had the IQ of Einstein. This is the trait we see with Shayna a lot, in my opinion, is that she overestimates her intelligence and her importance in a lot of ways. So after 5 hours of jury deliberation on April the 23rd, 2015, she was found guilty. And following the verdict, there was a recommended 40-year prison sentence. However, Shayna's attorneys argued for a new trial, stated they were not allowed to present evidence and witnesses that would have shown that Shayna killed Ryan in self-defense. The second trial, she gave a lot more details about her relationship with Ryan. She claimed that she was molested sexually as a child and a teen on multiple occasions, and that Ryan thought talking about her history of abuse might help her orgasm. She said that he was callous when speaking to her about the abuse, and in 2012 they had a sexual encounter that went wrong. She refused a specific sexual act, and everything changed after that. It felt degrading, she said. She said that she didn't know if she trusted him and that she feared him. So that was her, ploy to build on her defense strategy of that Ryan was an abusive boyfriend. But in the second trial, after 5 hours of deliberation, the jury again found Shayna guilty of murder, and she was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. So she got off lighter than Jody, but she will have to serve 20 years before she'll be considered for parole, and she is incarcerated at the Kentucky Correctional Institute for Women. So that was pretty much what happened. She tried twice to get away with murder, but neither attempt worked. I don't know what to think about that Shayna's strategy. I could tell that even from the 911 call, she immediately talked about self-defense and everything. She was clever enough to know about the law and that she could probably use the fact that she was quote unquote in an abusive relationship in her favor during the trial. But it didn't work. And she is going to be in prison for a long time now. She did get married in prison to a transgender woman. And I watched an interview and she pretty much talked about how she fell in love with this person's soul, but then continually misgendered this person once she was talking about her spouse, which I don't know. I'm not even going to dissect that whole situation, but I think that also sort of spoke to me about Shayna controlling every single bit of the narrative around her and everything in her life. My opinions on Shayna Hubers is that she actually makes out that she's crazier than she is. She's not that crazy, in my opinion. She's just a complete narcissist and a complete psycho, in that she really needs to control every aspect and every person in her life. And if you don't, play along with what she wants, you will face the consequences. And Ryan was someone that she figured that she couldn't control. Ryan probably was with her for a while and was like, no, this is too crazy. And by him going on to date Audrey Bolt, he finally, had a chance to properly move on from her. And Shayna did not take that well, and that's why the unfortunate circumstances played out in the way that they did, in my opinion. So I hope you like this video, delving a bit deeper into the Shayna Hubers case. Like I said, if you ask me in this situation what makes a monster, what made Shayna into the person that we all know today, I honestly think it was, in my just humble opinion, her desire to project a false image of who she was. And she wasn't going to let anybody else get in the way of that, even pawns of her own game. It's kind of gone girly, if you ask me, like a little bit gone girly, but she's nowhere near as smart as Amy Dunn. So if you like that video, like and subscribe, and I'll be back again soon. And have a great week. Bye.